The Admiral's eyes froze on her record. The room, once buzzing with voices, fell into a heavy silence. She was just another recruit, or so everyone thought. But buried in her file was something that made the highest-ranking officer in the fleet stop breathing for a moment. What secret could one young recruit possibly carry that would shake an admiral to his core? The transport shuttle rattled as it descended onto the Academy's landing pad, carrying a mix of fresh-faced recruits who clutched their duffel bags like lifelines. Among them sat her, quiet, composed, with an expression that didn't quite match the nervous chatter around her. To the others, she was just another rookie, about to endure the same grueling drills, lectures, and endless inspections. But even in her silence, there was something different. She didn't fidget like the others. She didn't keep glancing at the uniform folded neatly in her lap. Instead, she stared out the window, eyes fixed on the colossal Fleet Command building in the distance, as if she'd been there before. When the recruits stepped onto the tarmac, the atmosphere hit them like a wall. Officers barked orders. Cadets sprinted across the grounds. The sheer scale of it all made most new arrivals shrink a little smaller in their boots. Not her. She walked with steady strides, shoulders squared, neither arrogant nor timid. Some noticed. A boy to her left whispered, "She looks like she's been here already." Another shrugged it off. Everyone looked different under pressure. But the truth was, her calm was more than nerves of steel. It came from something none of them could imagine. Inside the intake hall, recruits lined up to present their records. Each file carried a life story, scores, background checks, medical history. For most, the process was routine. The officers scanned, stamped, and waved them forward. She waited quietly, duffel slung over one shoulder, until her name was called. Her boots echoed against the polished floor as she approached the desk. The officer took her file without looking up, flipping it open with the casual disinterest of someone who had processed thousands of recruits before. But then his brows furrowed. He read again, and again. His hand stilled over the desk. A silence spread like wildfire. Papers stopped shuffling. Chairs creaked as officers leaned in. Something in her record had pulled the air out of the room. She stood still, eyes forward, waiting. Not a twitch betrayed what she might be thinking. The officer finally rose from his seat, clutching the file like it was radioactive. "Admiral," he called, voice low but sharp. The title rippled through the hall like a warning bell. Admirals didn't deal with intake paperwork. Yet within moments, boots sounded against the floor. The Admiral himself entered, decorated shoulders gleaming under the harsh lights. He took the file, opened it, and stopped mid-breath. His jaw clenched, his eyes locked on her. The hall was utterly still. Every recruit felt the weight of the silence pressing down. The Admiral had seen something so staggering, that for the first time in their lives, these new recruits realized they weren't just here to train. They were about to witness a storm. The Admiral's eyes didn't leave the page. His hand tightened ever so slightly around the folder, knuckles whitening beneath his gloves. For a man who had commanded warships through blockades, who had faced down enemy fleets without flinching, the pause was unnerving. The recruits noticed. They exchanged uneasy glances, shuffling on their feet, whispering under their breath. "What's in her file?" one muttered. "Why's the Admiral here?" another asked. Their voices trembled with a mix of curiosity and fear. Finally, the Admiral closed the folder with a deliberate snap. He turned his gaze on her, sharp, assessing, almost predatory. For a heartbeat it seemed he might speak. Instead, he nodded once to the intake officer and left the hall without a word. The silence he left behind was heavier than his presence. The officer at the desk cleared his throat awkwardly. "Proceed," he muttered, handing back her file. His eyes darted to her face, then quickly away, as if even looking at her too long was dangerous. She accepted the folder without hesitation, tucked it under her arm, and stepped forward into the academy proper. Her pace was steady, but the murmurs trailing behind her clung like shadows. By that evening, rumors had already spread across the dorms like wildfire. Recruits gathered in corners, speculating in hushed tones. "Maybe she's related to one of the fleet marshals." No, Did you see the Admiral's face? It had to be worse than that. Worse? Or better? The stories multiplied, each more outlandish than the last. Some said she had been scouted as a prodigy years before and secretly trained. Others claimed her record bore classified operations, blacked out missions no recruit should ever have access to. But through it all, she said nothing. She moved through orientation drills, meal lines, and bunk assignments with quiet precision. No denials. No explanations. Just silence. And silence made her more mysterious than any rumor could. Even the instructors weren't immune. One of them, a grizzled lieutenant who had seen decades of wide-eyed recruits, paused when calling out her name during roll. His eyes lingered, brow furrowed, before continuing as if nothing had happened. But everyone noticed the hesitation. That night, while others struggled to sleep in their new bunks, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. The Admiral's expression replayed in her mind, though her face remained unreadable. If she was worried, no one could tell. If she was plotting, no one dared to ask. The truth, however, was clear to her. The file didn't just hold her record, it held her past. A past carefully buried, stitched together in shadows and sealed under layers of classification. And now, with a single glance, the highest-ranking officer had seen it. The Admiral's silence wasn't protection. It was a warning. The Academy had a rhythm. Drills at dawn, lectures by day, inspections by night. For most recruits, it was grueling, the kind of grind that wore down arrogance and carved discipline into bone. But for her, it became something else entirely. The stairs followed her. Whispers clung to her every step. In the mess hall, conversations hushed when she entered. Trays clattered a little louder. Spoons scraped plates with forced normalcy, but eyes always darted in her direction. Some recruits shifted seats, not out of hostility, but unease. Others edged closer, hoping proximity might offer answers. She gave them neither. It didn't take long for the divide to form. A handful of recruits, nervous yet fascinated, orbited her like moths to flame. They whispered questions, tried to strike casual conversations. "Where are you from? Did you know the Admiral before this?" She offered polite but empty replies, words that revealed nothing. The rest kept their distance. To them, she was dangerous, not because of what she had done, but because of what she might do. In a place where equality was supposed to be absolute, where every recruit started at the bottom rung, her record had tilted the balance. The instructors weren't immune either. Some seemed sharper with her, piling on extra drills as if trying to break the myth before it grew. Others grew cautious, their critiques softer, as though she carried invisible authority. Every test, every order, was weighted with silent questions. Was she ordinary, or was she something else entirely? One evening, during a grueling endurance drill on the Academy's outer grounds, the tension snapped. A fellow recruit, a tall, broad-shouldered boy eager to prove himself, stepped in front of her during the march. "What are you hiding?" he demanded, loud enough for half the platoon to hear. "What's in that file that makes an admiral stop in his tracks?" The group froze. Even the instructors didn't intervene, their eyes flicking toward her, waiting. She stopped walking. Her gaze lifted to meet his, calm and unflinching. For a moment, the silence was unbearable. Then, with steady precision, she said only, "Keep walking." The boy's bravado faltered. He muttered something under his breath and turned away, but the moment cemented what everyone already knew. She was untouchable, not by strength, but by something heavier. That night, while the dormitory buzzed with speculation, she sat alone at her desk, polishing her boots with quiet care. A folded slip of paper slid beneath her door. She picked it up, unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was sharp, efficient. Report to Fleet Command. Midnight. Her pulse didn't quicken, but she folded the note carefully, sliding it into her pocket. She knew what this meant. The Admiral's silence hadn't ended in the intake hall. It was only the beginning. The doors that had closed among her peers were nothing compared to the one that had just opened. And it would lead her not into training, but into a world far more dangerous than any recruit had ever walked.